Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be repotting my Banyan Style Schefflera bonsai. I have that new pot that Sophie made. It was commissioned by Reno and Manuela, made especially for me, so I'm very excited to try the tree out in the pot and see how it looks. Here is a look at my Schefflera. So I pruned and defoliated the tree this year, and you can see the leaves are growing in really nicely. It's looking really healthy. Yeah, all is going well with the tree. I do plan on showing this tree at the Toronto Fall Show and Sale this year, and it's in exactly 2 months from now. So it's August 17th right now, and the show is on October 17th. So I have 1 month for the tree to recover from the repotting, and then 1 month before the show I'll be defoliating the tree once again. So at showtime, the new leaves are just coming in and they're really small and miniature looking. Here's a look at the pot I'll be putting the tree in. So this is the pot that Sophie made. It's a really cool looking pot, big shallow oval pot. Yeah, so I hope it looks really good in this pot. I was originally going to plant my Araliaceae afroforest in this pot. That's what it was made for. But I decided I would go larger with that landscape, and I thought the pot might be suited more for my Schefflera. Here's a look at my Araliaceae afroforest. So I used the big rectangular pot so I could fit kind of a vast landscape in it. It's looking quite good. The leaves are coming out on the trees now after the pruning. One thing, I was looking at pictures of Kubu Island, and I noticed, in the wet season when the leaves are on the trees, that there's more shrubbery and grasses and that growing on the island. It looks greener than I have it now. So I think I'll be planting more moss clumps on this planting in the future. The first step for this tree will be to get the tree out of the pot, remove the old soil, bare root it, sort out the root system. When I repot it, there's a lot of aerial roots that are on angles that I'll try and straighten up so they hang down vertically if possible. There's some old aerial roots I removed. You can see the stumps are still in the soil. So I'll have to remove those when I bare root it. I was thinking a lot about how high to plant it in the pot. So I was checking my reference photos of Banyan Style ficus, which this tree's styled after. And usually you don't see a massive root system on the tree. This looks about right from my reference photos. I thought about, raising it up, showing more of the root system, but I think that would get out of balance. It would overpower the trunks and the aerial roots. So I think planting it about the same height in the new pot will look good. I also thought about putting it on a slight hill, but I checked all my reference photos and I don't see any banyan trees growing on, mounded up on hills. Not that I saw, and I looked at a lot of reference photos of banyan trees. They all seem to be on a flat ground like this. So I think it'll just be a matter of transferring it from this pot, using the same front, the same planting height. Yeah, everything pretty well the same. Just trying to sort out those aerial roots and trying to improve the root system also. My Schefflera has been growing outside on the bench, and it rained last night, so it's well watered. You can see the leaves are still wet, but the sun's coming out. It should warm up quite nicely today, so it's a good time to repot these trees when it's hot and humid out. They generally don't skip a beat, even if you do quite severe root pruning. So my first step, I've got to get the tree out of the pot. So I'll get my tray underneath and try and get it out without making too much of a mess. It's a big planting, so I might have to just kind of remove the soil from one side, shift the tree over, remove the soil from the other side, kind of work on it in sections. So here I go. Okay, I'll put my serving tray underneath the pot. Like that. And now I've got to get the tree out of the pot. It should be quite easy. It's not wired in or anything. So I've just got to grab the tree, making sure I'm not crushing any aerial roots. And lift up like that. And my assistant will take the pot away. Like that, thank you. I'll put the pot outside. And I'll start with my root hook and just start teasing out the roots, or the soil from the roots, and also kind of combing the roots out as I go. Being very careful to try not to damage the aerial roots. So the roots have definitely filled the container. They're growing right to the edges of the pot. And there's a good density of roots in here. It's, yeah, the tree has grown quite well since the last repotting into this pot. It's done quite well. I'm going to have to shift it over more. That. And I think it'll take quite a while for me to carefully get the roots combed out and remove the soil. Yeah, there's so many roots in here. Now they're not jam-packed in, but they're at a good level for repotting. Generally, you know, if you have a solid brick of roots, it's maybe a little late for the repotting. It makes it very difficult to sort the roots out. You have to tear through so many fine roots to get them sorted out. So I like to repot before the tree gets too pot bound. When there's just a nice density of roots in the soil. There's a grub in the soil. That's from crane flies. They're big flies that look like mosquitoes, but they're not mosquitoes. And I always lay their eggs in my pots. It's just something I've always had in this area. And they generally chew on the moss, sort of the decaying moss. I've never noticed them really attacking the roots, but they will. I'm sure if I took the moss away, they would find, you know, the roots to live on. So even though it rained like just a few hours ago, you can see the soil is still loose and crumbly. It's not wet. There's still good aeration in the roots. And that's important for a Schefflera, is they don't like to be in wet soil. Otherwise the roots tend to rot. They like a nice kind of crumbly soil with more frequent waterings where they can dry out and, you know, yeah, they just like a slightly drier soil than a lot of other trees. You can see some of these roots are really long. And these aerial roots, some of the thicker ones have their own radial root system on them. That would be nice to expose a little bit. Kind of shows maturity. You see that on old banyan trees. The roots drop down, they're called prop roots. And the branches just keep spreading out and dropping more prop roots, and the banyan tree can get very, very large. It takes up a lot of real estate. But they're pretty cool. I've never walked under one, but I can see pictures of people walking under them, and it's pretty cool. It must be quite an experience. Yeah, I'm finding a few of those crane fly larvae in the soil. Always at the surface eating the moss, the decaying moss. Wow, this is going to take a long time. So I will work away on the root system slowly and carefully, kind of removing as much soil as I can, and then I'll wash the root system is the plan, and then come back and do the root pruning. Yes, I'm glad I've repotted this because there's a lot of roots not flowing radially out from the trunk. They're growing all different directions. So it's nice to get them sorted out once again. So I will be back after I've got the tree bare rooted. And I don't know how long it's going to take me. I would think at least an hour. I always do these repottings. I start quite early in the morning because a lot of the time it takes me at least till the afternoon to get the tree back in the new pot. It can be quite a time-consuming process. I am making good progress. I'm kind of working on the underside now. I've got the drainage screens removed. I've got the roots of one of the aerial roots I cut off out. So I'm just working away. As I get this soil, I just put it in this bin over here so I can see what I'm doing. Yeah, so I'm starting to get the soil off the bottom of the planting now. I've kind of got a lot of it removed from the upper surface roots. I find the best tool is to use the end of my root rake. It's smooth, it doesn't damage the roots, it's very precise. I have got the root system to the point where I think I can wash it. There's a look underneath. Yeah, everything's looking good. It's quite late now. I've got, probably 90% of the soil out. So I'll take it over to my washing station and just give it a wash, and I'll have to use my root rake to kind of get the soil out from between the roots. But I think that's the next step. Okay, into the water it goes. I don't know if it'll fit in here. So I'll just put part of it in at a time. And then I'll just work on getting all the rest of the soil out if I can. As I'm cleaning up the bench here, I set the tree in the new pot just to see how it fits. So let's have a look at that. So here's a look at the tree in the new pot. This is the back of the tree. But you can see it fits quite nicely. It's not going to be too difficult to transition. A lot of these long roots will get pruned off. But yeah, it'll fit in here quite nicely. Okay, here comes the tree back into my serving tray here. So I'm going to make sure all the roots aren't trapped underneath, because I am going to start the root pruning now. So just make sure there are no roots wrapped underneath the bottom of the root base. That looks good. Okay, so I'm going to begin the root pruning. So any roots that are not flowing out radially from the center of the tree can be pruned away. You don't want roots like crossing over top of all the nice flowing roots. You want your root base to look nice and flowing if possible. And a lot of roots are really long. You can see how long they are. I will begin the root pruning now. So I'm just going to spray my scissors with soap and water. Make sure they're nice and clean. I'm going to start on this root. It's sticking way out from the tree. So there is the root kind of, instead of flowing down into the soil, it's kind of sticking up a bit. I'm just trying to get a root untangled here. There we go. Oh, it's got to be pruned off. Yeah, this one, it kind of sticks up, and I have a better part of the root system that's going down, so I'm going to take it off here. Taking off that length. Okay, and I have another really long root here that's also kind of sticking up, so I'll prune it back really short. Any of these really long roots that don't have any subdivision can be pruned shorter, and then they'll get new roots from the cut point. So instead of, one big long root going to the edge of the pot, you'll get ramification, just like your branches. You want them fine ramification in your root system if possible. This root, it comes from the root base of this aerial root, but it's growing across everything, so I'm going to prune it back short. Like that. The root system doesn't have to look, perfectly radial, but it always looks nice if you can sort it out as much as you can, because you're going to get natural variation, twistiness to the roots. Okay, let's keep attacking all these long roots first. So here's one that's sticking up too far. I'll prune that one away. This one's sticking up. Prune it away. This one's too long without any ramification, so I can prune it back shorter. Same with this one. Same with this one. Just pruning all these long roots that are running for a long distance without any subrooting. Take them back. This one is sticking up, so I'm going to take it off, keeping the part that's growing down here. And I'll be tackling, like, here's a root here. I think it comes from the radial root base, and it grows up and grows in between these roots here, so I'm going to try and pull it out. There I go. And then I'll prune it off short. There's a root coming down here. Like that. Now, I know it's hard to see this because it's such a low tree. Here's a root that's kind of sticking up and getting long, so I'll take it back. Here's another one that's just long with no subdividing. Take the end off. This one too. That one. You can almost do a profile prune. Now here's some problem roots. This one, it was hitting the edge of the pot and growing around. Yeah, so these are definitely going to need pruning. So let's tackle this one first. I'll prune it off short. There is some roots coming off near the base there, so I'll take it back quite short. This one goes a strange direction. I don't even know where that one comes from. Comes from, what's going on here? Oh, almost caught. It comes from way back here, so it's not radial at all. It's just not a very flowing root, so I'm going to remove that one. I don't think there's any subroots on it. I could prune it off short, and I think I will. There is a little root here, so I'll try pruning it off short. And you can see how long that one was. This one too, it's getting very thick. It runs for quite a length without any subdividing. The subdividing starts out here. So the direction's not bad. It's pretty radial. There's some roots growing off it back here. So I think definitely this upper part can get pruned away. Like that. There's another root tangling around it. There, I got that off. That was like a big root. It was going all over the place. This one can be, it comes off of a root that's going a very strange direction. It's going off an aerial root. And I don't want it crossing this root, so I'm going to prune it back short. And this one can be pruned back short. And this one also. And this one. Like that. There's one here. It's a little high. I'm not real happy with the, doesn't flow down into the soil very well. Could it be repositioned? Maybe. I think this one has to get pruned back. And I'm thinking this one's got to go. I just don't really like it. It's not flowing radially from this trunk, it's just kind of crossing it and obscuring any roots that do grow from this trunk line. This one grows from way back in here. Maybe I can pull it out, readjust it radially. Maybe. There's another root coming from this one. Yeah, that worked. This one, it's growing from this trunk line and it's crossing this root base, so I'm going to take that off. And I'll be cleaning up a lot of these cuts later on, once I'm getting closer to the final root system. So here, I need to do a little more combing. So I'll just comb that section out, sort it out a bit. I don't have to worry about the roots drying out very much today because it's so humid out today. After that rain, and it's kind of cloudy and very, very humid out today. So nothing's drying too quickly. Okay, there's an aerial root coming off of this trunk line that I'm not sure if I can get it vertical. I might. I guess it's worth keeping. A few pine needles in here I can clear out. There's a root in here. There's a couple of roots. You can see they come from this trunk line and they cross through here and snake out to the side. I don't think I like those. They're just not, you know, good looking roots, so I'm going to take them off. I think I pruned that root off before and it just regrew. I'm just cutting it off in sections. Yeah, I just don't like it crossing everything there. It just interrupts the flow of a beautiful root base. Let's see if I can push that out. There we go. Got that root out. Yeah, I'll have to do a bit of cleanup work in here. It's a little... Here's a root here that's sticking up too high. I can take that right off. This one too, it's sticking up too high. There's one coming from here. I'm not sure where it's coming from. I think it's coming off the aerial root. It's just crossing everything. I'm going to get rid of that. This one's sticking up too high here. I'm getting rid of that. Now, let's keep going around here. Another root here. This part's sticking up too much. Prune that away. Yeah, when you're looking at the roots, you have to evaluate, is it a beautiful root? Does it have promise for the future, or is it kind of not so good? Is it going to, as it develops, as it thickens up, is it going to make the root base look worse? And that's kind of your criteria for keeping roots. There's an aerial root here. I don't know if I can get it untangled. I think I can. Yeah, there. Still flexible, which is good, and I can reposition that more vertical, hanging down like that. Oh, it's so humid, my glasses are fogging up in here. So this part of the root system's looking quite good. It's well ramified. I gotta clean my glasses. They're just fogging up. It's so humid in here. And now that the sun's come out, it's just, everything is evaporating. Okay, so I'm just looking at this root system. There's an aerial root here that's looking good. This one's looking quite good. There's a root back here. It grows from the trunk and it grows back in and in between all the roots. I'm going to take that one out. I don't know if you can see it back here, but it's not a good looking root. So I've got to somehow get in here and cut it. Maybe from here. Maybe from here. There. And then the other end of it goes into the root base here. I don't think I can pull it out. No, it's fused in there. So I need to come in and cut the other end off, which is not easy. There. So that takes that strange looking root out. Now we're at the front here. So this is kind of the critical part. There's an aerial root here that kind of flows across this trunk line, which I think is okay. It's not ideal. If I could pull that out and hang it vertically, it would look better, but that's a pretty tall order, but I'll try. If it breaks off, it breaks off. I got it out in one piece. Now I'll reposition it behind this trunk line, hanging it down vertically. There. So that's better. I like that better. Now there is a bit of debris in here. I've got to get my tweezers and pick. There's a leaf in here. Fell down from somewhere. Yeah, so now I'm still looking at this front. There's a root here coming from somewhere deep in the root base. That's kind of crossing all my nice looking roots that I'm going to take out. Like that. Taking this one off, it's not going a good direction. Not sure about this one either. I'm going to take that one off. Again, it's just not flowing out from the tree. Some of these, they don't flow perfectly, but they look natural. They've got a lot of character to them. They're kind of crossing over top of other roots. So they're not too bad. Like I say, you won't get a perfect mathematical root base, a radial root base. That would look very strange and artificial. So, but if you work on your roots, you'll get something that's, quite nice and radial, but it also looks natural because you just get so much natural variation in the way the roots grow that it's pretty hard to make an artificial looking root system. Putting a root off shorter there that was crossing everything. This one's growing a strange direction. I've got to cut it off. It just doesn't flow out radially from the radial root of that aerial root. This one can be pruned off shorter. This one I'm hoping to hang vertically. Yeah, that can be done quite easily. Same with this one. It can be repositioned vertically like that. Yeah, you want all your aerial roots to be quite vertical if possible, because in nature, gravity hangs them down. This one is going to be hard to do that. They hang down from gravity, and generally they're all straight up and down. But in miniature, they kind of grow out from the tree at strange angles. This aerial root isn't vertical, and it's kind of growing in between this major root system. I'm trying to pull it out if I can. Let me see if I can. Oh, there I go. Okay, so that's free. That can be hung vertically. That one's free. I've got a weed back in here. Pretty hard to get that out by the root system. Yeah, that might be hard. I'll have to work on that. Now, I'm just looking at the root system from the front here. Just looking for things that bug me. This one is growing out on a pretty strange angle. If I can reposition that vertically, it would be better. So, I'm going to try and get it growing back in here. Something like that is better. At least it's hanging in a vertical direction. Okay, I'm going to keep rotating around. So here's an aerial root that's going on a real angle. So I'm going to try and pull it out. Maybe. Oh my goodness, is it ever fused in there? There it goes. So I got that out. So now I can reposition it around this branch and hang it down vertically like that. That's perfect. Nice. This one, you can see it's got a bit of a curve to it. It's pretty impossible to correct it when it's at that point in time. Same with this one. It's just so thick that it'd be pretty tough to position it vertically. I mean, it might be possible if you were to put a stone in there, it would help hold it in place, but it's pretty established, that one. That one's really thick out the back, but it does flow nice, so I'll keep it, even though it's really, really thick. But you see that on, banyan trees, you see some pretty thick surface roots. There's a couple of roots here sticking up. I think I've pruned them away, and I can prune them back a little more flush. It's a bit of a curly root in here, but it's too established to do anything, I think, because there's an aerial root coming down. It's just one of those things, and it's kind of at the back, so you don't see it. So I think the next step, I've got some long roots here that I've got to prune back. Hope you can see that. Sorry if the video, it's really hard to film this. This tree is very low and my hands are very big. So maybe all you've seen is my hands in front of things today. I'm not sure. That root can come right off. This one can be shortened. All of these can be shortened a little bit. They're just too long. Yeah, so I'm doing a bit of a profile prune now just to make sure the root system's kind of equalized. So there's no long, vigorous roots growing compared to others. The back is pretty good, but I think over here, I could use a little bit more pruning. My camera overheated. It's getting really hot and humid out here. So I did a bit of a profile prune on the root base, getting everything shortened back, getting it ready for the new pot. The last thing I want to do to the roots, if you look in here, there's a lot of good vertical roots, but then there's some deep in the root base that are growing kind of crisscross. They're growing on like almost 45-degree angles. I don't know if you can see them in there, but they're in there. So I want to prune those away. I don't want this area to look like a jumble of spaghetti. I want the roots to have order, just keeping the vertical ones, getting rid of all those kind of ones growing strange directions. So I'll do that next. And I don't know how the filming of this will go. I think I'm just going to do it off camera because I can let the camera cool down outside and work on this, and I don't think you'll see anything anyway. My hands will be in the way and it's just too tight an area to get the camera in there. So I'll work on that, cleaning that out, and then we'll come back and take a final look at the root base. I have got that section of the roots sorted out. So here is a look at the root base now. And there's that section. I think you can see that most of the roots are quite vertical. There's not a lot of confusion in there. Yeah, it's sorted out quite nicely. I rotated it around and I was looking at the root system from all angles, and I think that's it for the root pruning. Yeah, I think it's looking good. It's certainly improved. A lot of those areas that just weren't looking good got pruned away. There was a little branch growing in here that I pruned away also. It was just a little new shoot that was kind of growing in a bad place. So I think the next step is to try the tree out in the pot. Let's look at all the roots I pruned away. Yeah, some pretty long ones. Yeah, the next step will be to try the tree out in the pot and see how the root system fits in there. I can get an idea of the planting angle. This tray is quite shallow, so from this view, let me just zoom in here. From kind of eye level, you can see the root system is exposed more than it was in the pot before. And it changes the look of the tree. It definitely puts the focus more on the roots rather than the trunks, I think. Yeah, I think it doesn't look balanced if you show too much of the root system. So if I kind of rotate down below, I can, cover up the root system, kind of find the height I want. I think if I planted a little higher, it'll just be a little bit higher, not a lot. I don't think I want to show too much root system or it'll just look unbalanced. So yeah, maybe just, a few millimeters higher than it was in the pot before. So I will clean up and we'll get the pot out and try it out. I have got the tree just sitting in the pot, so I'm having a look at it. Let me zoom in here. And my first impression is I'm not really liking it, is my first impression. The pot has two sides. This side has some drips on the front. The other side has more. This side has a bit of a curve to the lip. It's not the straightest. That's why I've never really considered this side too much. The other side is better. Let me try the tree, shift it over a bit. in the pot here. Maybe closer to its actual position. See what it looks like. I don't know, my initial impression is that I noticed the pot too much. The trunks aren't really thick on this tree. I mean, the root base is quite thick, but the actual trunks are fairly skinny, and I just feel that the pot is just taking away from the tree. It's definitely not the pot for this tree. Here it is with the sun. Yeah, I'm just not falling in love with it. And maybe it's just that it's new to me and I'm not used to it, but that would be about the height in the pot too. I've got to think about it. I'll kind of study it a bit and decide what I'm going to do. But initially, I'm just not liking the pot with it. It does fit nicely in the pot. Let me think about it. I've tried the tree out in a large mica pot. The pot is definitely less noticeable, but it looks way too deep. Yeah, it really looks too heavy. And it's a little big too. Yeah, that doesn't work either. I do have a ceramic pot, a rectangular one I'll try out. Yeah, let me try that one out. The pot I'm thinking of trying is the one my Chinese village penjing was in. So over the winter, when I brought these in from outdoors inside, all the trees look really good. And then suddenly all the trees except these front two defoliated, and I have no idea why. I thought, well, maybe they're just getting used to the indoor lighting, and they never came back. They just defoliated and died. And these two, they were fine. So I don't know what happened, and it's not the first time I've had this happen. I had a bunch of trees in the back there die off the one winter. So I don't know what it is. I think if I redo this Chinese village penjing, I'll use Chinese elms. I think they'll look more miniature and they're a little easier to keep in the colder environment. And it would clear up a bit of space in the tropical room for other trees. So yeah, it was a disappointment, this Chinese village penjing. At least, you know, it looked good, and it went to a show, a couple of shows, and it looked good. But it just went downhill fast this year. So I've just left it here, forgot about it, but I can maybe repurpose the pot if it looks good with my Schefflera. So I will dig out the two trees that are alive, remove all my little features, and take the soil out of the pot and try the tree out in it. When you get the right pot for a bonsai, it just works, and it's almost magical, the tree pot combination. And I think this is that. I think it's the right size, the right depth. Yeah, I think that works really nicely. And sometimes the rectangular pot, the canopy of this tree is quite rounded, and it's nice to have the contrast with a rectangular pot with the rounded canopy. If you look at most ficus from Taiwan and that, like, you know, real specimen trees, they're usually grown in a rectangular pot. Usually it has a bit of rounded corners on it. It's not a sharp rectangular pot usually, it's a softened one, and I think that's because if you have an oval shaped tree in an oval shaped pot, it can look a little, it doesn't have that contrast, and sometimes I think that's nice, and I think in this case it looks good. Yeah, I think this is definitely the best pot I have for this tree. Yeah, I like it. And I was thinking, I talked way back about having a glazed pot with kind of an ivory color or a gray color with a lot of texture in that. And I'm thinking now, if I did have that bright, I think it would take away from the tree too much. I don't think the trunks of the tree are bright enough that it would kind of match. In this lighting, you can see the color of the pot is kind of tones with the trunk right now. Whereas, you know, my hibiscus over here has quite a white trunk on it, and it looks good in the, you know, white or cream colored pot. But yeah, I think if I had a brighter pot, I think it would take away from the tree. I've got to be very careful with these trees that the focus is on the tree, and I think this is a good tree pot combination. I think the two look really good together. I'm actually really impressed. So I think this is the pot for today. Yeah, and maybe a long time. I think it's a good looking pot with this tree. So the next step is to plant the tree. I've got the pot cleaned up. So my next step, I'll get drainage screens in the pot and get a base layer of soil, not too thick. It'll only be, you know, this much in the bottom, because I don't want the tree sitting too high out of the pot. So I will do that, and then we'll position the tree and see how it's looking. I'm going to mix up new soil for this tree. So I've got a big bag of perlite here, which is fairly coarsely grained, fairly large particles, but I will sift it. It's important to get the dust out, and I'll mix it half with the turfus or safety zorb, and that should make a good mixture for this tree. I have got my soil mixed up, sifted, half perlite, half safety zorb, so that should be good. I've got my screens for the pot here, so I can add a base layer of soil now. And as I said, just a little bit, and I'll wet it down so it stays in place. And then I can position the tree. And I may have to do a little more root pruning if the roots are coming down or coming out and hitting the edges of the pot. I'll see when I get the tree in there. It looked initially when I had the tree in there that I might need to do a little bit of root pruning, but not much. Okay, here I go with my base layer of soil. And when I mix this soil up, I just held my breath while I was mixing it. I've tried dust masks, and it doesn't seem to matter what mask I use. Somehow it leaks in, you know, through the crack in the mask in your face, and you get congested the next day. So I was very careful this time. I held my breath when I was handling the soil, and I didn't breathe in any dust. So I'll do the same here. I'll hold my breath, pour soil, let the dust clear, and continue that until I've got my base layer of soil in. So here I go. Okay, that's good for the height. I'll just make sure it's leveled out. The root base on the bottom of the Schefflera is very flat, so I don't need to mount it up much or anything. It's going to contact the soil no matter what. Okay. So I am ready to try the tree out once again in the pot and position it. I'll give this base layer of soil a water just so it stays in place. So here I go. Okay, here comes the tree. So this is the front of the pot. The other side is a little wavy. So this is definitely the front. I don't want it right in the center. I want it offset a bit. So maybe here. I will try that for starters. Now, so I'm looking at the front at the moment. So I've got to shift it over to the left-hand side more. There's the front now. That looks fairly balanced. Now I do have the opportunity to rotate it slightly if I want, so I'm just looking at the front. No. No. If I were to rotate it, it would be slightly clockwise, just to make that trunk in the middle a little more on center. Maybe there's the front. Somewhere there. Now, I'm just checking the position left to right. The overhangs are fairly equal on each side of the tree, which I think looks good. It's offset. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Now, as far as front to back, I've got lots of room for the roots on the front, but the back I'm overhanging the pot a bit. So I think it's got to come forward a little bit. So here I go, moving it forward a bit. And how is the height? The height is pretty good. You can see the old height was about here, and it's, if I get down at eye level, it's about, you know, a 1/4 inch or maybe 5 millimeters higher, which I think is good. It's just the right amount. The tilt looks good. I don't think I need to change that at all. So I think that position is good. So the next thing I need to do is prune these roots that are sticking out, and I'll show you a view of that. So if we look from above here, you can see the roots are just sticking out. They're touching the pot a bit, so they need to be pruned back. And at the back of the planting, can I rotate it around? Maybe I can't. You can see, again, there's some roots kind of close to the edge of the pot. So I will prune those back, just kind of a profile prune, taking them back so there's just, yeah, a bit of a gap between the edge of the pot and the roots. You can tuck the roots in so they kind of go along the edge of the pot, but I prefer to leave a bit of a gap. That gives them room to grow before they hit the edge of the pot, which I don't know how important that is, but it might help them ramify a bit too. So now I've got to rotate this around to the back. Seem to want to rotate too easy. There we go. And I'll do the same back here. Just prune these roots back. That's looking pretty good. Just going to make sure I have room for them here. I think so. Yeah, that is all looking good. Okay, let's go back to the front now. So the next step, I need to position my aerial roots so they're all vertical before I start adding the soil. So I will do that. Okay, so I want all these roots vertical. This one isn't vertical. That one's pretty good. This one's pretty good. That one's good. This one could be moved in a bit more. That one a bit better. This one, that's as good as that one gets. Same with this one. These ones are too thick. They're fairly vertical. They're a bit twisty, but they're too mature. I can't change that. There's one in here. Oh, it's cutting off. That was the remains of a root that was on an angle. There. Okay, they're all looking pretty good. Yeah, that's not bad. I think that's as close to vertical as I can get them. Okay, well, the next step is start adding soil. Let me just step back though before I do that. Make sure I'm happy with the positioning of the tree. It's always best not to rush into the final position until you've studied it, had a good look at it. Let me just get this back on the turntable properly. Okay, a final look. I'm looking from the distance now, which is always a good thing to do. Well, I think it looks pretty balanced. I can't imagine it, to the left more or to the right more. I think it looks good. I like the height of it. I like the front. Yeah, I think all is good. I can add the soil now. It's always good to check the position before you fill it in with soil. I've had to redo the odd tree occasionally. I filled it in with soil, took a last look at it and thought, if only it was over a little bit more. So yeah, it's always good to double, triple, quadruple check your position in the pot before you add the soil. It saves a lot of time if you have to redo it. Yeah, so that is the tree in the pot. And this is, I think, the best pot it's ever been in. I've had it in a Japanese oval pot before, a glazed one, and I just think this pot suits it really nicely. Yeah, I like it. So I'll begin filling it in with soil now. Okay, here I go. Making sure my roots are sorted. I've got the soil added around the roots. So my next step, I've got to make sure it's all worked into the root system. And I may have to use my spoon to reach in and get soil into the interior, in amongst all those aerial roots. But that gives you an idea of what it looks like now. I think it's looking quite good. So I'm just making sure I've got all these air pockets filled with soil. Now I've got to get soil in between these roots in here, so I'll use my spoon and just work that soil in. And I always use a combination of the end of my root rake, like a chopstick, and my fingers. You get a really good feel for if there's any air pockets in the soil, just by the way the roots move and the soil moves. When there's air pockets, everything springs. And when it's full of soil, or when the roots are surrounded by soil, everything feels firm. So your fingers can really tell what's going on. That is feeling good now. There's just a little bit more I have to get in here. There's a bit of a void opened up. And that has got it. Tree is good and firm in the pot. You can't even wiggle it hardly. Okay, I think it is time to water the tree. Here's a look at the soil worked into the root system. Yeah, that will do nicely. Just double check my aerial roots are still vertical. Yeah, they're looking pretty good. This one, that's the best I can get it. Yeah, at least they're all, fairly vertical now. Yeah, I think that's looking good, so I can water the tree now. Okay, here I go with the water. Now this tree isn't really easy to water because, you can water overhead, but it doesn't guarantee it soaks all parts of the soil. So I have to come in at a low angle like this and water underneath the canopy. And it's just something you have to do with this Banyan style. It's, if I water above, it might water it, but it might not. It might just run off and you may end up with dry spots in the soil. So it's best to water each little section carefully. Rotate it around, get at it from every angle. I'm stepping back, having a look at the tree now. I sure like that pot with it. I think it just looks fabulous. It's the right size, depth, everything. Even the color is really good. I think if I went any darker, it wouldn't look right. If I went lighter, it might take away from the tree. Yeah, I didn't expect that color to look good with it, but I think it does. You have to imagine the perlite replaced with moss, closer to the showtime. But I think it's looking good. I'm so glad I had a pot, and I'm so glad this one looks as good as it does, at least in my opinion. Yeah, I'm very pleased with that. So we'll fly in now and just have a look at the details. And that will be it for today. I'll just keep it well watered in good sunlight, keep it warm, and it should recover from repotting and grow quite well. I'm very happy with the repotting of my Banyan Style Schefflera. I think it's looking really good. I like the asymmetry of the tree. I like the low branches, the aerial roots. I think the canopy shape is looking good. Yeah, I'm very pleased with the progress of this tree. So I'll just keep refining this tree into the future. Maybe someday I'll find an even better pot. I'll keep working on the branches, the aerial roots, and yeah, just try and make the tree a little better each year. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.